Well, we've got a really nice, bright, sunny day today. We might even hit 70. So I went out early this morning and I fed our 2 cows, and I just sat out there and listened to the killdeer and the meadowlarks. They're just singing their heart out. It's just a pretty time of springtime. And I came back into the shop to kind of get going, and this is typically my Tuesday video time. I like to work on my manure spreader. Well, I sat down to the computer and kind of doing some of that mundane stuff, and I was checking my emails. And it was pretty common, delete, 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 delete. But there's occasionally a few that come through from some of you, and I do get a fair number of advertisements. Well, I had an email that showed up that talked about how to sharpen blunt scissors. And I like sharp scissors because I do some upholstery and I do some leather work, So I like sharp tools. I like sharp chisels. I like a sharp pocket knife. So it kind of caught my attention. And it mentions that you can even have sharp scissors, but they all become dull eventually because, just the process of use and time, they're going to lose their edge. Well, this is a simple trick to sharpen your scissors, introducing a new method, it says. And I looked at it and I thought, you got to be kidding me. Now, I took screenshots of these and I didn't include who sent this email. So I just took a screenshot of the information that they were trying to, quote unquote, introduce this new method. Well, their method is this. Take some sandpaper, 150 to 200 grit sandpaper. And if you don't have sandpaper, you just take an old sanding belt or whatever you might have. And it's talking about taking this piece of sandpaper and folding it over so that the abrasive sides are out. Then you're supposed to take your scissors and proceed from the inside point clear out to the tip and start cutting strips of this sandpaper. And it's just going to magically sharpen your scissors. Does that make sense to you? So I think we all know that cutting paper is much harder on scissors than cutting material. Any type of clothing material or upholstery material, vinyls, wools, whatever, paper is really hard on scissors. So I'm supposed to take some 200 grit sandpaper and start cutting it with my scissors and expect it to become sharp? Well, then why doesn't paper sharpen scissors instead of making them so dull so quickly? So I thought I'd do a little test today to see, is this really true? Can I sharpen scissors just by cutting sandpaper? I have some scissors that I keep here for kind of utilitarian use. This is a pair of scissors that I kind of really like. It allows for big fat hands like me, has short blades on it. There's a lot of leverage there. They're pretty nice, pretty handy. And I have this set of scissors that are old sewing machine scissors. They're old. I'm not sure where I got them from. They might have even been my mother's, I'm not sure. And I have another set of shears here I have used for years and years. These have been on my sewing machine that I have upholstered with for a long time. I have sharpened, and resharpened, and they are still a good set of shears. I did break down and buy a brand new set here, maybe 2 years ago that are on my sewing machine now, so these don't get used quite as much. And then there's this set of shears that I keep on my sewing machine, and these are the brand new pair, and they're a really nice pair of shears. So these are the 4 pair of shears that I keep here. These are my brand new ones. These are ones that I've used for a lot of years. These are an old set of shears. And then these here are my utilitarian, kind of used for anything. They're easy to sharpen. So a lot of times you can take a piece of paper and test how well your scissors or your shears work. I actually like to use paper towels. It's very soft, pretty pliable, and if your scissors aren't sharp, they won't cut these. So just to test how well I keep my scissors, and what kind of shape they are, Those aren't bad. Those are actually pretty nice themselves. This is my old set of shears. They're a little rough, but they still cut fairly nicely. And then this is my brand new set of shears that I hate to put paper towels on, but I'm just going to show you. They are just silky smooth, really nice and sharp. So my theory is, if this advertisement is correct, I should be able to take sandpaper and continue to take these sharp scissors and cut away on that sandpaper, and it'll just keep them sharp, right? Let's give it a try. Now I keep sandpaper around in these kind of adhesive back, they call it a stick-it disc, and I keep them from 80 grit clear up to 400. This is actually a 320. Now this advertisement says 150 to 200. Well, we all know that if we want really sharp, we want a finer grit. So I'm going to go with this 320, and it says to fold it over, and so that the abrasive is on both sides. So since this is adhesive backed, it folds over and stays there pretty nicely. So if I take these scissors here that are already sharp, like I've shown, and I'm only willing to do it with these. I'm not going to try it with my other ones because I think I know what's going to happen. So I'm going to take this 320 sandpaper and just start cutting the little strips. So will it still cut my paper? These were sharp. So how does sandpaper sharpen scissors? In my case, sandpaper ruins scissors. So at the basic instinctive level, why would cutting material or paper or whatever in the process of cutting that makes them dull, why would you take something that is far more abrasive and continue to cut it and think it's going to make them sharp? Really? Now, I'm no rocket scientist, but I do like to observe some things and try to understand how they work. But a pair of scissors on the flat side that are parallel to each other are actually hollow ground. If this camera will pick it up, you can see that we have contact right along this outside edge, but then this whole inside is relieved because it is hollow ground. So as these two cutting edges cross each other, they don't have to drag across the whole face of these scissors. They're actually shearing right on this cutting edge on both sides as they are shearing that material. Now these are my old shears that I have sharpened numbers of times, and it might perhaps show up a little more because I have sharpened these a number of times, but you can see the contact on this leading edge, and then there's also some contact here on the trailing edge. But this whole inside face of these shears are hollow ground so that there is no contact. So when you are in the process of cutting any type of material or sandpaper, what you're doing is you're grinding down this cutting edge. When in fact, when you want to sharpen scissors, you want to grind down this edge with an abrasive and sharpen that up and leave this edge alone as much as possible. I will touch that up just faintly to take off any type of a curl in the sharpening process. But this face you want to leave alone because that's what goes dull. This cutting edge right here along this point. So I think you'll see that as these two faces cross each other, that's why they're called shears. They cut that material on those two leading edges. But then when I take these that I just ran through the sandpaper, see that sharp edge is gone. And it just wants to fold that over. It doesn't shear anymore. So different scissors are relieved on this edge at different angles. But you can see there's a difference in these two angles just on these two shears. This is much steeper, this is much more relieved, but it's this edge here that is the factor. This slight edge along this edge is probably closer to this edge here. So on these brand new shears, it has a really sharp angle on it, but this cutting edge is similar to these other scissors. It's not this bevel that counts, it's this bevel that counts. And these also are hollow ground, and I think maybe you can see that in the reflection. So the only place these make contact is right along this edge here. So how would I sharpen scissors? It definitely would not be through the process of cutting sandpaper. I use a whetstone. I have had this whetstone here for probably close to 50 years. The case is broken. At one time I dropped this stone and broke it as well. You can see there's this crack right here. It actually was in two pieces. About 10, 12 years ago I did this and I took super glue and put it back together. And it has been holding ever since, so I still use this stone that I used when I bought it in college. Like I say, that's been 50 years ago. When I sharpen, I do use an oil, and I use just WD-40. It's a nice light oil. So I'll open up my scissors fairly broad, and I can kind of feel where that real sharp angle is, but I don't want to sharpen it at that angle. I want to stand it up to where I'm sharpening just on this leading edge. And if I'm standing it up tall enough, you can see that it will gather oil on that leading edge. Now there's probably a scientific degree to this. I find that edge and then stand it up, and I've done this so often that I just kind of get a feel for where that edge is. And I'll do the same to both sides. Find that bevel and then I stand it up. And you can see that oil just kind of gather on that leading edge. Means I have contact with that leading edge to the stone. And I only pull it one direction. I don't do the seesaw thing. I pull it one direction. It eliminates the amount of burrs on that leading edge. So hopefully I haven't damaged these blades too much on that sandpaper. Hopefully it won't take a lot to put this edge back on it again. Well, let's give that a try. Wipe off my oil. Get a new sheet of paper towel. Don't need two, just need the one. And see if we've gained back our edge that we had at first. That's what I like. A sharp pair of scissors, just like a sharp pocket knife. So this email advertisement showing this whole process, the last picture they show with glistening sparkle on these brand new scissors on, oh, what a wonderful job it's done. You've got scissors that are back like new again. It's sales pitch, folks. It's not how it happens. Cutting abrasive material will ruin your scissors, not sharpen them. I mean, just basic logic should make that stand out like a sore thumb. In my college years, I spent a lot of time sharpening knives. It seems like it's kind of a mysterious thing. A lot of folks can't do it. I got to where I spent hours and hours, and I would sharpen multiple knives because the word got out that I knew how to sharpen a knife. Well, the sharpening of scissors is pretty much the same thing. Once you kind of understand the principles of that shearing action, you just got to sharpen the two bevels on each side and keep that edge sharp. And when they shear, they cut like butter. You know, I don't know how many scissors you keep around in your home or in your shop. These are the basic 4 that I keep. And I am not going to use sandpaper to sharpen my scissors. You know, the internet is an amazing thing, and I think we all know at the fundamental level not everything that is on there is true or believable. You know, test some of these things. If cutting material dulls your scissors, why is sandpaper going to sharpen them? It just goes against logic. Anyway, that's what kind of stood out this morning as I was checking my emails and thought, you know, I have sharpened enough pocket knives, hunting knives, scissors, small, big, that, you know, it seems like it is a mysterious thing. It's not all that mysterious. Just take a good whetstone, a little bit of oil. Some of these diamond stones you use on water, I use those as well. And just hone that edge and do it the correct way. Anyway, appreciate you following along. Thanks for watching.